What was the first piece of music that you heard that caused you to take an interest in music and becoming a musician?
When I was about 13, my cousin, my mum and dad always grew up like loving like Johnny Cash and Frank Sinatra and stuff. So there was always really amazing music in the house. But my cousin bought a guitar, and as soon as he bought one, I really wanted one. So I kind of saved up loads of money, and then he played me like Nevermind by Nirvana. That was one of the first kind of alternative albums I heard, and I was just like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then from there, I kind of discovered stuff from that really. But I'd always like it's like your parents always play music and stuff, so I always listened to it and loved it. But that album was kind of when I was like, okay, guitar music was what I wanted to do. So I'll be your eyes in your secrets, I'm your slave. I'll break what's left of you and hide it away. I'm a cruel, cold, highly wasted space. Now they may sleep so I can't sleep. For a very long time I always played acoustic guitar music, and I listened to lots of kind of singer-songwriters and like Bob Dylan, and again like Johnny Cash was someone that really influenced me as a songwriter and a performer, as an artist as well. I thought like visually it was really strong, and that really kind of was something I really aspired to. And I think from a guitar playing point of view, like I'm not a very good guitar player at all. Like I just write songs with chords, so like my songs are never very complicated. They're always quite simple, but I find it easier to write songs like that, you know. But I think when I started Sivu as a project, I kind of was looking at towards songwriters like Beck or even someone like Bjork, or who are songwriters, but they weren't songwriters. You know, when you think of a songwriter, you think of a guy singing with an acoustic guitar, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. You know, I didn't when I first started Sivu, I kind of wanted to kind of avoid that at all costs. So I tried to push myself more in the studio and be a bit more challenging, and I think that definitely rubbed off on me. I think those artists. So I think more now, I'm kind of like I'm almost going backwards a bit more. I'm kind of leaning more towards acoustic kind of music now, but at the time that was definitely something I really was quite important. Working with Charlie had a massive impact on the album because, as me as an artist as well, because I think again I was just playing gigs under my own name with just a guitar. So to kind of go into a studio with someone who literally took my songs and literally tore them apart and just said, well, you ever thought about this? Again, like I said before, like taking the guitar out and replacing it with other instruments and sounds. That was something I'd never thought about before, and I was quite nervous about it at first, but it definitely brought such a different landscape to the songs and sat them in a different setting than they ever were before. And I think, I just kind of feel like you made you more ambitious to add different sounds, and he just approaches things in such like a left field way. Like if I worked with any other producer, I think the album would have been very different. I think, again, because I wrote the songs on an acoustic guitar, it could have been so easily been a folk record, or it could have been a rock album, but because Charlie approaches things the way, like even when it came to putting drums on a song, we would never do it in a straightforward way. We'd always try and think of the most obscure way we could do it, and it's like as an artist, that's the most exciting thing, to do things that kind of challenges you, and it's exciting to work that way. And I think if I'd worked with someone else, I think the album could have potentially been very, very different.
In an interview with Rockstone, you mentioned the importance of being honest with your music. Do you feel that's like something a lot of musicians struggle with in trying to get higher up the registers of fame or something like that? And can you describe like how important it is to be honest with your music?
Yeah, I think it's so important. I think you have to be really realistic about what you want, and I think I knew, like I kind of knew very early on, as Sivu as a project was never going to. When the album came out, I knew it was never going to. It was never going to be a top 10 album. I knew it was never. It was never going to do Brixton Academy and things like that. I don't know, like really silly things, but I just think that I was very realistic, and I was like, I just think it makes you more. It makes everything just make more sense. I never wanted to buy into that thing of being a pop star or have these big expectations for myself, really. And I just think I think it's really easy nowadays to get to kind of fall into that, when I was very lucky, like a lot of artists, people kind of were interested in what I was doing, and that was so amazing, and it was very exciting, but it was really difficult at times not to kind of get carried away and be like, oh my god, I'm going to be really successful, and that you kind of have to take those out and be like, I'm just doing what I do, and I'm making the music that I want to write. And I think, especially when you're talking to labels and things, sometimes it can be very easy to be pushed in one way, and you just have to just do what you want to do and make sure that no one changes that, because the things that connect to people are always the most honest, and I always feel like people can tell when a song's not on. I don't know, does that make sense? Like, it has to be honest and about you, and I think those songs are the ones that make a difference. I feel like when I listen to an artist, the songs that are most personal are the ones that kind of draw you in more, and I think I always try and do that. I think sometimes I'm sure I don't pull it off, but like that's what I always aspire to do and be, I guess.
So would you say like it's more important as, say, like we want to write music for like people that are in bands, trying to make it just to write what is best for them?
Yeah, I think it should always be about the songs. I think that's one thing I always say, and someone said to me, like when I first started, like if you haven't got any songs, like doesn't really, nothing else really matters. You can dress a song up if the song's shit. Do you know what I mean? So like work on the things you can control, and I think kind of things will always if you're writing good music, people will always discover that and will get on board, and you just keep doing what you're doing. Like, listening to a lot more stripped back stuff and records like this is, I'm not sure if you've heard it before, John Hopkins and King Creosote made this little 7-track EP. Like, I'd recommend it, it's amazing, and there's just loads of space in it, and it's just like really ambient and really like it's like acoustic, but it's just really beautiful. And that record I heard on this tour that I keep listening to loads now, and I think with the next record I feel like I would like to free things up a little bit and just kind of maybe pull things back a little bit, even because we're touring with just two of us as well. It's kind of taking things back a little bit. Again, that's the best thing about the studio, is you can do loads, but sometimes playing it live is more challenging because there's so many elements to kind of recreate, I think. So
do you have like a preference in which way you like to perform the songs, really, or does it just change?
Do you know what, at the moment, like playing in this setting, in these kind of venues, the smaller venues, like playing like this is way more fun because it's more chilled and you can kind of really bring it down a bit. But again, I'm pretty sure if I'd been doing this tour with a band, I'd probably be saying I love playing with my band, so it's so hard. But at the moment, like stripping things back is I think it's worked a lot more than it ever has before, I think. So maybe moving forwards that'll be something we try, I'm not sure.
So from when you started as a musician, from like the very early days, like when you were playing like acoustic guitar and Nirvana songs, looking back on like from where you've gone, like so like if you go back and give yourself advice, or did you ever think that you would get to this point now where you are?
No way at all. Because it was weird, because I'd always played in bands growing up, and I never went to university because I was playing in bands and stuff. And I think I got to the point when I was kind of in my early 20s, like I'm 25 now, and when I was about 22, I was working full time in an office, and I kind of thought, well, this is never going to happen. But I always played music on the side, but I always kept playing. I think that was the one thing I probably wouldn't change anything, actually. I kept playing, and I moved to London just because I just kind of needed to try something different, but I still kept working. And I think that kept me really focused, because playing music all the time, you sometimes can forget that, I think. So working almost made the music was more of a goal, if that makes sense. So yeah, I probably would just say to just keep doing what you're doing, really. I think, yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I think to anyone, I just think like, just writing and working on the songs is the best thing I did. Just took loads of time away and wrote some songs and made sure I was really happy. I wrote like 30 songs for the album, and then so they made sure you could literally choose the ones that felt best. And I think, yeah, someone told me that like songwriting is like a muscle, and you have to like work it. Do you know what I mean? Which is a really interesting way of looking at it, and I was like, wow, that's so true, because
it's one of the things you have to just continuously do.
Yeah, exactly, because you will. It's just, the more you write, I guess, the more kind of you get used to it, and you go no. And I'm still learning that as well. Like, I'm just trying to write wherever I can. It's like sometimes you can't write anything, but it's just about, I write a lot of shit. So like, you have to write the shit ones to get to the good ones, I guess. To have a second album wrote by the end of this year and hopefully recorded is my dream. Even I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'd really like to get another album done by the end of this year, and then be touring again early next year, and just be back out and doing it all again. That would be really nice. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what I want to happen. We'll see.
I'm sure it will.
Okay, we'll see.
Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you for doing it. Thanks for having me.